Oh, let me start off with Natalia. You have name, address, and 3 minutes. Stand up at the podium and tell us what you want to say.
Hi, my name is Natalia. First time here, and first person to make a comment. I just want to say I would like bike lanes in Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, wherever possible. I would like to commute by bike to work, but it's not possible right now. And in some streets I can, but then I see a sign that says bike lane ends, and it's like, you're on your own, good luck. I would like bike lanes. Please, thanks.
You don't have to use all 3 minutes. That's good. Thanks. All right, next name.
Thanks. Joe Seconder, 2023 Woodland Way. I'm also here to talk about modes of transportation. Think about, I'd like to have a change of vernacular when we think about transportation planning of putting safety as the number one overarching consideration when we put funding towards transportation. Putting $3 million this year into resurfacing, does that increase the safety of all users? Think about that. We're putting $3 million into repaving. Does that increase the safety of people, vulnerable users today out there on the streets? I'd also like to consider that what is a street, what is a road, what is it defined as? I would like to say it's a linear strip of publicly owned right-of-way. So we have a publicly owned right-of-way. We all own that piece of land there. And what do we use it for? The movement of goods and humans. How do humans choose to move? In the United States, nearly half of all trips are 4 miles or less. Again, nearly half of all trips in the United States are 4 miles or less. We have flat roads, such as Tilly Mill, Mount Vernon, Chamblee Dunwoody, what would make great connectivity to our nodes, our residential and our commercial nodes and our businesses nodes, and network to build out a connected network. So what does this all look at? It looks like providing connectivity for people that may choose to transport themselves using a bicycle. So I like your consideration. Even though in 2011 we had a transportation plan, what has changed since then? We've moved out of recession. The Federal Highway Administration signed off on different guidelines of bikeways, things called protected bike lanes. So there's different standards. In 2012, the Georgia DOT signed off on a complete street policy and so on. So things have changed since our 2011 transportation plan. And in the Army, like they say, when the operation plan, it changes the instant you go into combat. The instant you cross your line of departure, the plan changes. But you meet the intent of the plan. So consider the intent of the transportation plan rather than literally looking at a physical map and saying yes or no where a bike lane may or may not have been designated. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next name up is Jeff Wilson. 3 minutes, Mr. Wilson. Name and address.
Jeff Wilson, 1722 Tyndall Court. First, I want to thank all of you for your service to our city. I'm here, like Joe, to advocate for cycling lanes that are safe and complete for our residents. I truly believe that if you build it, they will come. And I have a personal story to share to that effect. I lived in Japan for 2 years after college, where a bike was my only means of transportation. So I went everywhere by bike, every day of the year, commuting into work, to go to the grocery store, to a restaurant, to get my hair cut. It was by bike. And even when I had vacation, twice for a 1 week period, I went on vacation by bike, touring the country and camping along the way. And I wouldn't have done that if Japan was a dangerous country to cycle in. Like a lot of countries around the world, they have safe, connected pathways along major arteries. So all the school kids and all the employees can bike to wherever they need to go. And a lot of them in Japan do. Where I was living, the majority of the people did not have a car. And it was really a lot of fun to live there for a while. So when I came back to the U.S., it was with a little bit of disappointment that I had to get back to getting into a car. And 10 years ago, I moved to Dunwoody, and I started cycling over 100 miles a week in the Dunwoody, Sandy Springs area here. And I get up at 5:30 in the morning to cycle for safety reasons. Do I really like to ride around in the dark at 5:30 in the morning? No, I don't. I'd rather ride in the daytime, but I just don't think we have the infrastructure here today. I work 3 miles away from where I live, and I don't feel safe commuting into work, and that's sad. So I was biking down Mount Vernon on Saturday at 9 a.m., a little later than normal, and I was delighted with what I saw. There were a lot of cyclists in groups of 1, 2, 3, not just the big pack of Dunwoody cycling, but just various people out cycling on that narrow strip where we just recently put the bike lanes in. And I hope for Tilly Mill, another good opportunity, we can do the same or better, because I think the Mount Vernon lanes are a little narrow for particularly taking my kids. And my vision would be that I could share with my family the joy of carefree cycling around a city where we live. And today I can only do that if I put the 5 bikes on my minivan and ride to the Alpharetta Greenway. And that's kind of sad that I have to do that to enjoy cycling with my family. So my vision is that this council and future leaders of Dunwoody can keep working on complete streets where we have opportunities, execute them to improve our cycleways, and that we can all take our kids to Brook Run Park or other area destinations by bike, keeping Dunwoody dollars here serving Dunwoody residents. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next name up is John Francis. Name, address, and 3 minutes, Mr. Francis.
I'm John Francis. I live at 1996 Woodland Way. After an approximately 60-year hiatus, I've started bicycling again. I also probably shortly have a keen interest in what you're going to do for senior housing. But for the moment, I concentrate on the bicycling. By coincidence, I just returned from Europe a week or so ago and spent some time in Amsterdam, a city that has dedicated a good deal of planning and foresight and implementation into a wonderful system of bikes, and it makes a wonderfully active and vibrant city. I would like to see Dunwoody do the same sort of thing. I would like to be able to bicycle around and enjoy the beauty of Dunwoody without fearing for my life. So I would appreciate anything y'all could do to add to the cycle lanes and make it more feasible and safety. But also like to thank you all for your service for all of us.
Thank you, John. Next name up is Cheryl Summers. Name, address, and 3 minutes.
Cheryl Summers, Tilly Mill Road. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The bike lanes and Tilly Mill were not on the agenda for this evening, so I did not rally the troops like my opponent, Joe Seconder, did. However, I hope you've had an opportunity to read my comprehensive email and the letter from my neighbor, Mrs. Sparling, which detailed the reasons why we believe that there should be absolutely sidewalks only and no bike lanes on Tilly Mill. And furthermore, the center turn lane is essential to the residents along that stretch of Tilly Mill where it is. I also want to say that the comprehensive traffic plan from 2011, the maps, and I went over it again, and the maps in that plan and the discussion do not show that bike lanes are to be input on Tilly Mill, that it's a bike route only, and that's probably because somebody recognized the fact that, oh gee, we have a lot of traffic on Tilly Mill. There's a lot of congestion all the time on that road. And finally, this is a taking of the property of the residents who live along Tilly Mill for the pleasure of a few people who want to ride bikes, and that's just not right. These people, the bike lanes are hardly used as it is. There's seldom bikers on Tilly Mill, not even on Saturday and Sunday mornings. So, again, I am voicing my opposition to the bike lanes on Tilly Mill. We want sidewalks only because the sidewalks are for the safety of the residents who live there and for people going to and from the college, the synagogue, the Jewish Community Center, and other facilities. But bike lanes are not essential. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Next name up is Lauren Ruiz. Name, address, and 3 minutes, Ms. Ruiz.
Ruiz. I also live off Tilly Mill. I'm a cyclist. I've been riding since 1996. I commuted in Chicago. busier streets than here, and I was able to do it safely with bike lanes and bike paths. I moved here 3 years ago, and I actually have not been comfortable riding on the roads here until about 3 weeks ago. And I do commute to work on my bicycle down near Tilly Mill, all the way down, and I go through back roads, and I find I have a difficulty when I leave Womack getting on to Chamblee Dunwoody because there is nowhere for me to go. And then I'm trying to make a left on there onto Mount Vernon. I do get in the lanes. I do obey the car laws. I do stop. I signal. And I make sure people see me. I wear reflective gear, and I'm all lit up. I look like a Christmas tree, as my mom likes to state, but I like to arrive alive. So I definitely would look for bike lanes. I would enjoy them. I was actually planning on having lunch with a friend of mine this weekend, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to Sandy Springs from Tilly Mill at Andover, where I live, and do that safely. I just want to be able to commute safely. So far I have logged. I am part of the Georgia Conserves, and I'm trying to decrease my footprint here on the earth. I do recycle like most of us do because we do have recycling, which is great. But cycling so far in the last couple of weeks being tracked on the website that Georgia offers, I have already reduced 94 pounds of pollution by just my 2 legs, and I have 1 less car on the highway or streets. I also can ride home in 25 minutes instead of waiting in an hour and 10 minutes of traffic to drive 5 miles. Okay? It's a big deal. I like to be home with my husband and be able to cook dinner instead of sitting in a car on Amazon at a stoplight. I also helped, I've already ridden 150 miles to work and back alone, and I've contributed to 850,000 miles and 3.5 tons of pollution reduced. So if you have more people out there who are able to cycle and bring down that reduction, it'd be really great for our environment. You know, it goes hand in hand with the no smoking laws. Let's get that pollution down, right? As well as make us healthier. We have an epidemic of persons having diabetes. My dad's diabetic, my aunt's diabetic. So to me, personally, it's a health issue for me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. Just 3 minutes goes by fast. Next name up is Ashley Luke. Name, address, in 3 minutes, Miss Luke.
My name is 1617 Manhasset Farm Court, and this is my son Spencer. My son is a student at Peachtree Charter Middle School, and he rides his bike to school. He and his friends will meet and ride their bikes to Dunwoody Village. He started that a couple of years ago where he came home. I said, what are we having for dinner tonight? And he said, I don't know, Jay and I are riding to Village Burgers. So that was that was the end of me having to cook on the weekends, I guess. You know, and I just to voice the same things that you've heard from other people today. One of the great amenities in Dunwoody, we moved here when he was 5 for the great schools, like a lot of people do. It's one of the things that keeps our property values high. And it's a great family-oriented community. And there are so many amenities that are available to us without having to get in our cars. The fact that we can get to Dunwoody Village, we can go to, you know, we as a family, we ride our bikes to the Thursday food truck event down in the park there. And there's no good way. So if you don't know where Manhasset Farm Court is, it's down behind St. Luke's Church. And there's really no good way for him to get to school without getting on some of these really large roads, many of which do not have safe bike lanes. And it's always a little nail biting. You know, he's gotten pretty good at it now. He's pretty used to it. He knows where to stop. He knows when to look for people, especially around Georgia Perimeter College, a lot of people coming in and out of those parking lots. But, you know, it's really just my goal that our family be able to continue to get around. We'd love to be able to ride down to the new things going on at Georgetown. You know, having connectivity in the city for people, you know, whether you're in your car, on foot, or on a bike is really important. And to Joe's point, making sure that we can all do it safely, you know, particularly as a parent, just making sure that our kids, I mean, I think it's great that our kids can, you know, he can meet up with his friends. I don't have to be home to drive him somewhere. They can go do things. They can go to the library. Last year, he did camps at the JCC in Sproul. He biked to camp and back both days, you know, both camps. You know, and it's a great amenity, and it's something that Dunwoody should be proud of, and it's something that Dunwoody should continue to work toward having more of in our city. So we're all safe as families. I know there's a lot of feeling that this is about the sports cyclists on the spandex on the weekends. But, you know, I'm on my Costco bike in my khaki shorts. You know, he's on his bike from Sports Authority. We're typical cyclists in Dunwoody. And I think that it is important that we really analyze Tilly Mill, I get everyone's points on that. I listened to the whole city council meeting last time on that. But the fact of the matter is that's a major connector for Peachtree Charter Middle School, for Brook Run Park, for the Georgia Perimeter College, for the JCC, for Dunwoody Elementary. It's a major connector for people who travel by modes other than in their cars. And we should just make sure that people are able to do that safely. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Manuel Ruiz. I live at 2532 Andover Drive. I'm here to talk about cycle lanes and mainly as for bike lanes for education of drivers myself. I lived in Georgia since 85. I grew up in Sandy Springs, and I lived in various cities in Georgia. I've been commuting since 2008 and includes many cities. And I personally have seen where drivers are not educated on what lane to use. They might bypass their own safety. I personally have seen accidents where people were trying to pass me and cause accidents with other cars without knowing how to drive properly. A bike lane also allows for drivers to see how much space to give to a cyclist. Again, as an example, is me commuting on the roads of Georgia. I've seen where drivers who wait too long and cause traffic problems without giving the allowance, without knowing what the allowance is. We talked about many main roads in Dunwoody, which are the easiest ones for everybody to cycle with, don't have bike lanes. That is something that the infrastructure could be helped with bike lanes to get between the different locations of the city. So I appreciate that the city council looks at that and reviews maybe some of the planning of some of the bike lanes that could enhance the safety of drivers, young cyclists, and educate drivers on the road, so it allows for everybody to share the roads properly. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Next name up is Eric Ledbetter. Name, address in 3 minutes, Mr. Ledbetter.
Hi, Eric Ledbetter, 4908 Kilt Court. I'm also here to support bicycle lanes and a complete streets approach. I live half a mile from Brook Run Park, and I don't feel safe riding my bike to Brook Run, much less with my kids. As you're all aware, a bicycle is defined as a vehicle in the state of Georgia, which means cyclists cannot legally ride on the sidewalks. To ride on the sidewalk also jeopardizes the safety of pedestrians. For those of you who are in favor of having cyclists ride their bikes on the sidewalks. We need bike lanes to facilitate movement for both commuting and recreation. Tilly Mill and Mount Vernon are two roads that I ride on a regular basis. Both are dangerous. They don't even have a shoulder, and they are sadly devoid of safe bicycling routes. Sometimes planning goals are at odds with recreational users. Planners want to create this connectivity for short trips. Recreational users want longer runs that string together communities to go from Dunwoody to Sandy Springs, maybe down into Buckhead and back around to make for a longer route. Sometimes this creates a disjointed system. An example of that is this great new bike lane and street that we have at Dunwoody Village Parkway. It connects to what? Connects to Mount Vernon, where there's no follow-up bike lane on one side, and it connects to Chamblee-Dunwoody, which has no bike lane on the other side. One of the other things I also want to remind you guys of is helping educate the citizens of Dunwoody. I can't tell you how many times as a cyclist I've been yelled at for following all the rules on the road. And mostly it's because people just don't know the rules. They don't know the law. They don't know how to safely pass someone. And they're not going to listen to me. I'm on a bike. So whatever you guys can do to facilitate helping the citizens of Dunwoody understand the state laws and how to safely deal with cyclists on the road would be much appreciated. Thank you for this time, and thank you for your service.
Good, thanks. Last one up is Jason Metzger. Again, name and address in 3 minutes.
Good evening. Jason Metzger, 5475 Oxford Chase Way. I'm also here to speak on behalf of sidewalks and bicycle lanes. First, I wanted to thank you for allowing me to voice my thoughts and opinions, and also wanted to thank the Mayor, Council, and City staff as well for implementing this complete streets policy and for adding bike lanes as we have the opportunities. I personally utilize the facilities that have been added, including along the stretch along Mount Vernon and Dunwoody Village Parkway, and my family as well. And we're definitely a lot safer, a lot more enjoyable. And we've also definitely seen an increase in ridership, as one of the gentlemen alluded to earlier. If you build it and connect it, they will come. There's a lot of people that want to get out there and just aren't comfortable doing it right now. We want to be able to step out of our door and be able to visit shops and recreate and do other things without having to get in a car and sit in traffic and spend half an hour getting there before we can take the bike off the back of the car and go ride through a park. So I just want to encourage you to continue this path towards connectivity. As another commenter alluded to, Tilly Mill is a major corridor. It connects a lot of large amenities in our city. She mentioned a few. I would like to add the Williamsburg Shopping Center is, just less than a quarter mile off of Tilly Mill at Mount Vernon. Congregation Ariel, Kingswood United Methodist, and then, like she said, the parks and the schools along that route. I have a 9-year-old son, and I'm really hopeful that by the time he gets into Peachtree Middle that he'll be able to ride. I live right off of Mount Vernon, so I'm hopeful that he'll be able to ride down Tilly Mill safely in bike lanes. I feel it'd be really short-sighted to miss that opportunity by just doing the one section of bike lanes that's currently envisioned. And I think, like I said, you build it and they'll come, and the corridor is already being used by cyclists such as myself and my family. Unfortunately, when I'm with my family, I do have to ride on the sidewalk. When I'm not with them, I'm riding there, blocking, vehicles, blocking cars. So I say let's make it safer and more enjoyable for both the cyclists and also the drivers. Thank you.